We've got numbers 20 through 11 on the countdown. Let's go. Hello, everybody. It's Ray here again with another installment of my 100 favorite games. This is numbers 20 through 11 on the countdown. So we're really getting to the best of the best. These 10 are no exception. So let's get started with number 20. Number 20 on my list is a game that just came out within the last year or so. This is Bruxelles 1893. This is an Essen release that mostly got some buzz right when it came out, and then a whole bunch of other things came out with Christmas time, and so it just sort of slid under the radar. This has, it's really a gamer's game. It has auction mechanics, it has area control, it also has player powers that are involved. You get these helpers. It's set in turn of the century Brussels, and it's right at the height of the Art Deco movement. You are making works of art, selling those for money. You're also creating buildings and designs, and then so part of those buildings and designs, you can go and buy action spaces around the board so that you can get a minor action if somebody wants to take that action later on in the game. There's different things about trying to outbid other folks on the actions that you take. You might want to take an action just so that you can get the bonus that's in its column. There's a grid here of the different actions that you can take. So there's just a lot going on, a lot of different ways to win, a lot of different ways to score your victory points as you go through the game. There's even an area where you can take a regular action over here, or you can send one of your workers to take a super action. An action that's actually better than anything else you can get over here. However, if you send too many workers over to the super action area, you're going to lose one of those workers for the rest of the game, but there are ways to get those workers back through different bonuses and different powers. Just a ton of stuff going on here. Give this one a try. You will not regret it. Bruxelles 1893, my number 20. Number 19 is a game that's much, much older, and it's a game I've played in lots of different places. This is Bonanza. This is a set collection game, but it's a little bit different because this is also part negotiation. You get cards that you're forced to collect unless you give them away to your opponents. You have two different types of beans that you can collect in areas called bean fields. You can potentially get a third bean field at a different point in the game by spending some of your victory points, coins that you earn by collecting these beans. But after at some point you're going to have to stop collecting a bean that you really want to because you're being forced. You've gotten a different type of bean. So you'll hear people try to give things away because, oh, by the way, you have a hand of cards that you are required to plant the first card in your hand, the oldest card. You have to keep them in a line, in an ordered queue, so that you know which card's been in your hand the longest. And so you might want to try to give those cards away, trade those cards away that may become problematic before they end up disrupting one of your sets. Again, it's a lot of fun, and experienced gamers, new gamers, they all love it. This is Bonanza. This is my number 19. Number 18 is a game that's also got a lot of age to it, and it's already in its second form. This is Doomtown, or now Doomtown Reloaded. Doomtown was a CCG back in the day. Now it's come back as a living, expandable format. And what you're doing is you're trying to control the town of Gomorrah. And the way you do that is you hire dudes, and you also try to control deeds, and then you sometimes call out the other person's dudes in shootouts. But instead of comparing just straight numbers, all the cards in the game have a regular poker, ace through king value and suit. And so you actually use hands of poker you draw from your deck in order to resolve the shootout. So if you end up getting four of a kind, that might be better than somebody's just straight. And then they would lose a number of dudes. They would take casualties in the new version of the game. And that's how you go through. You want to eliminate people's dudes, or sometimes you can outmaneuver somebody by getting out different locations and being able to send your guys to that location where somebody else might not. It's a tactical game. It's a game of strategy and a little bit of luck as you're trying to get those hands in there. But then, of course, you can build your deck to try to gear it to where you're going to get a particular hand more often than not. You could try to load up and say, okay, well, I'm going to have a whole bunch of aces in my deck. Okay, that's fine. However, then there are cards in the game that you can be played against you because you're having a cheating hand if you have two ace of clubs, for example. That's that's not a good thing. Again, it's a lot of fun. Again, different game every time. It really does. It's a storytelling game because you're building out the town and having your gearing up for the different fights that you have. This is Doomtown Reloaded now. My number 18. Number 17 is a game that can often be described as a newer form of spades. This is digging. This is Reiner Knizia. This is another game I've played in a lot of different places over the years. Essentially, you have it's in true Knizia style. It's a very minimalist deck. There are 3 of each type of mine in the deck. There's copper, silver, and gold. There are different bags in the deck, and there are bandits in the deck, and there's closed cards, which aren't on here. But basically, you and your partner are trying to stack bags in your mines while trying to keep the opposing team's mines closed, or putting pressure on them with bandits, and then you score points that way. But the neat part about the game is you can pass cards to your partner. So that's the only allowed form of communication between you and your partner. You're not supposed to have any sort of table talk. However, everyone tries to get around those rules to everyone's satisfaction. Again, if you play this game with somebody, if you played it with a partner, you have a newfound link between the two of you, because instantly you are trying to find and get that communication going of when you need to play a close at a certain place, when it's time to attack a mine, when you want to defend, when you don't want to defend. And 2, if you get one of these double bag cards, if you start out a mine with a double bag, all the other bags that follow after count as double. So that's another thing of trying to set up your double bag mine and when you think your opponents are out of bandits, because unless you're playing, you only draw a card if you don't play a card. So if you think the other team is low on cards, you may be able to sneak through your mines and sneak through those double bags without any pressure or hindrance. So again, very tactical, luck, strategy. It's a fun game. Give it a try if you can find a copy. This is a game that I know some people have played this and have made their own handmade deck, because this is a hard game to find now in print, but I've got to think it's coming back soon. This is Digging, my number 17. Number 16 is a interesting game of building castles, building towers. This is Asara. Asara is a Kramer and Kiesling game where you have a hand of different cards of agents. They have different colors, and essentially it's like setting up a whole bunch of tricks. So you have roofs, you have middle sections, and you have bases to each of these towers, and those are in different depots on the board. And so whoever's the first one to play an agent that sets the color. So I might play a red agent to the top. So while everyone else for the rest of the round has to play one red agent to the top area if they want to get one of the other tops that are available. Otherwise, they have to use 2 cards instead, and it doesn't matter if they match or not. But you only have so many cards, and those cards are your actions. So if you're having to spend double 2 cards for actions all the time, you're not going to get nearly as many actions. So you want to go first, you want to be the one who's setting those colors, and then you have to look at your hand and think, okay, well, I want to get bases for these colors, and I want to get tops for these other colors, but you also see what's out there, so those things may not be available. And then 2, there's also even an aspect of trying to build your towers sooner in the game rather than at the end of the game. You don't want to hold out too much, because there are points for golden decorations that you get every round through the game, and you can only score completed towers. So there's a lot of trying to go and make sure that you have some towers at the beginning, some in the middle, and some at the end, so that you can get your full amount of scoring. There's a lot of things to balance in this game, and it's a lot of fun. And you can play it with young and old alike. They have different rules. You can spice it up and add more bits to the game as you get better at it, but the base game, I think, is just fine. This is Asara. My number 16. Number 15, St. Petersburg. It was recently reprinted. And so I just have the original version here, and it's just fine. You just have to be a little bit careful in this one about one particular rule, which is making sure that you have different of the helpers, different of the people. We used to play this game where you got bonus points for every one of the people that you had, and that was not the right way to play it. It's very, in the original, in this version of it, it's buried in there. in super bold print, but it's fine print that you have to have unique people to score this bonus. But you're going around, you have different phases, you have workers, which earn you money, you have buildings which try to give you little victory points over the course of the whole game. You have these helpers that, again, really don't do a lot. They might make you a little bit of money, they might make you a couple of victory points, but their big thing is you're collecting their association and getting one big payout at the end of the game. And then you have these upgrade cards, and that's ultimately the game. You're trying to build up your tableau, but at the same time everyone is trying to manage their money that they have and versus the things that they're trying to get into their tableau and score as many victory points as they can. Again, it's well done. It was well done then, and I hear even the new edition that just came out is even better. It's made some refinements, but this is still well worth your try. This is St. Petersburg, my number 15. Number 14 is a game that just came out within the last 2 years. This is Euphoria. This is worker placement with dice. It's on a huge board, and it's got, as you can hear, I've got my resources rattling around in here. You're going and you have recruits on the table. So you have two different recruits that give you different powers. One of them stays face up, as that involve the different factions that are on the board. So instantly, you and probably one other player at the table are working together loosely, because you're going to be sending your workers more often to places that help advance your faction's track. You're trying to get these victory stars on the board. You get these victory stars on the board for a couple different things, for building and buildings, but also advancing your faction's track and having recruits of that faction. So that's where you want to try to help do those actions to advance your faction track, and that also gives you bonuses along the way. You get other stars for taking care of building in other buildings, and there's a couple other ways that sometimes you have a card in hand that you can try to get a one-time star or get some more recruits. There's also different things on there, but it goes by very quickly. The workers come off at different times. You decide when to call back your workers, and you can try to roll, and if you match numbers, you can try to get a few actions chained together, which can really help. Again, very well done. Even if you are not a super worker placement fan, this is definitely one still to try, because it does not get too heavy into the details of your worker placement. This is Euphoria, my number 14. Number 13 is considerably smaller than that. And that is Jaipur. Jaipur is a two-player set collection game, but it has this interesting mechanic with you have camels that come out, and those camels you can use to get additional cards at different points in the game. Instead of having to discard cards that you might want to hold on to, you can discard these camels. And so you and your opponent are sort of fighting a little bit over these camels and when to go and turn in your sets of items to get points, because there's more points at the beginning of the round than at the end. However, some of them, the more finer ones, you need more of those items in order to be able to try to go and score. So again, it's a very fun back and forth two-player game in a genre that doesn't have a lot of really superior games. Jaipur is one of them, and it comes in a little box, and you can play. It's got it even built in a best 2 out of 3 system, because you play this and you're like, okay, well, let's go again. Well, that's part of the game. You're supposed to play best 2 out of 3. Again, it says 30 minutes. Once you get the hang of it, it doesn't even take that long. Give it a try. Jaipur, my number 13. Number 12 is a game that it's a cheap-ass game called Witch Trial. Witch Trial is... You just can't play this game without getting into the spirit of this. And I hear this a lot about Sheriff of Nottingham, about getting into the spirit of the game. Well, this had it beforehand without a lot of the social bluffing and lying parts of it. Witch Trial is, as you might think about the Salem witch trials, and you have different folks that are actually being prosecuted. And so So one person is going to take the side of the prosecuting attorney, and one will be the defense. There are different cards, however, you can play, and depending on the crime, that sets this number of what the guilt level is. And then you'll take turns playing these cards to increase or decrease the guilt level. Now, at the end, once you finally get it, at any point along the way, the prosecutor and the defender can plea bargain the case because there's a pot. And so, as people have played cards and they bought cards before a trial comes to pass, this money's went into the pot. At any point in time, the prosecutor can go, well, you know what? I'll give you a quarter of the pot if I don't have to roll the dice. And you can work it down however you want to, so that at least the defense attorney can get some money as well as the prosecutor. If you can't reach the deal, then you have to roll the dice, and depending on if the player rolls, I believe it's under, I don't remember, it's been a while, but basically if you pass the check, then the prosecution wins the whole pot and the defense gets 0, or if the prosecution loses the roll, then the defense gets the entire pot and the prosecution gets 0. So there's a lot of, especially with more players, there's a lot more enticement, a lot more momentum towards trying to make some sort of deal so that both sides get at least a share of the pot. And then 2, depending on, you might be able to save the cards if you were able to reach that agreement early on, where you're not having to show some of those cards and spend some of those power-ups to move the needle. Then you can even use those on future trials. So there's a lot of back and forth. This is a lot of fun. If you can find a copy, give it a try. This is Which Trial? My number 12. And the last one tonight, number 11, is Bruges. Sort of book-ending, starting and ending with Belgium. Bruges is set more in medieval times, and so you have cards in your hand. This is a sort of card engine type game. You have cards that have different colors. You can use them for houses. If you want to build a house, you have to discard. You have meeples of different colors, and you have figures who are going to help you of different colors, and on the back of every card is a house. In order to get somebody whose face, you have to use their power, you have to have a house to put them in. In order to build a house, you have to have workers in order to build the house of that particular color. The cards themselves can also be discarded to get more workers back in so that you can recycle and reuse. The people that you get to stay in your houses are worth points, the houses themselves are worth points, and then the people, once they get into your houses at different points of the game, you can use workers or other things. They all have powers on them so that you might be able to score points. There's a bidding mechanism at the very beginning of, okay, well, this is going to, if whoever wants to pay so much can move up on this influence track and score points, and there's a whole bunch of majority bonuses, so you want to try to be really specializing in at least one thing so that you can secure a majority, and then you can go worry about another thing so that you have to try to pass the first person so that they can secure a majority, because on each one of the categories there's points. Again, there's a lot of different things to balance through in this game, and it's all, I find, to be very fun, very interesting. That's Bruges, my number 11. That is another 10 done in the countdown. I just thank you so much for watching these videos, and we're going to make it. We're going to make it the next time, numbers 10 through 1. These are all fantastic things. If you like what you've seen, by all means, please subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to hear more about just the random things that I'm doing in gaming, you can follow me on Twitter at InstGameReview. Thank you so much for watching again. God bless you. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.